Hey, how's it going? Happy last live report of 2020. I'm your host, Caitlin Saposi Belknap. I moved to a men's national director, and I'm coming to you live tonight from Mesa, Arizona. And normally, you can find us here on the last Wednesday of every month at 5 o'clock Pacific on Facebook Live and Twitter and YouTube. Obviously, tonight it is neither Wednesday nor the last Wednesday of the month, nor that time. But we changed things up tonight, and in general, that's when we will be around. Move to Amend is the campaign to pass the We the People Amendment to the US Constitution to make clear that corporations don't have constitutional rights and to get big money out of politics. And I should turn that off. There we go. Today we have a bunch of news and updates, so stay put, don't go anywhere. But do share and retweet this live stream using the hashtags #MoveToAmend and #LiveReport for a chance to win a free t-shirt at the end of the report. We always give out prizes, and this month we'll be doing a couple t-shirts to folks who help us promote this broadcast. So if you're on Facebook, share this live feed with the hashtag #MoveToAmend. And if you're on Twitter, you can retweet this live feed with the hashtag #MoveToAmend, and we'll pick one lucky winner from each platform, Facebook and Twitter. And feel free to ask me your questions anytime. I'll answer them at the end. And even if you're not tuning in live, you can ask us questions. We'll be sure to reply with a response ASAP. Feel free to also chime in and let me know where you're tuning in from. I can't always see every single comment, but Alfonso helps me keep track of it. So you can post your questions, but also feel free to just say hey. So we always start off with corporate rule news, and that's where we'll go first. All right, it is finally December. All 48 months of 2020 are almost over. Unfortunately, the holidays coming up, there's maybe not so much to celebrate, at least for a lot of Americans. And 2021 doesn't really look all that hopeful, as 14 million American households are at risk of eviction as protections expire this month. But you know who's doing really, really, really well? The morbidly rich and their mega corporations, obviously. Yes, that's right. Folks like Jeff Bezos became even richer thanks to COVID-19 and the global pandemic. But he still won't protect Amazon workers. Bezos has accumulated so much added wealth over the last 9 months that he could give every single Amazon employee $105,000 and still be as rich as he was before the pandemic. That is nuts. And also keeping in mind that I don't think any of our minds can actually fathom how much $1 billion is, let alone multiple billions of dollars. So that's $105,000 to each employee at Amazon, and then he still would have literally an unfathomable amount of money. So you'd think that he'd be able to afford a safe workplace. Yet, as of October, more than 20,000 US-based Amazon employees have been infected by the coronavirus. And that estimate comes from Amazon, by the way, so there's actually no independent verification, nor has Amazon revealed how many of them have died. Pandemic-fueled online shopping, coupled with the holiday season, can only make things worse for these poor employees that have had to endure unsafe working conditions and really shitty pay all year and since forever. And since Amazon has fought against union organizing since day one, that's 25 years of fighting against union organizing, the Amazon workers are pretty much on their own and without any real options, like maybe the majority of American workers these days. But when you think about how much their owner has that he could spare, it is outrageous. The truth is that Amazon isn't the only one. A survey conducted in May by the National Employment Law Project showed that 1 in 8 American workers has, quote, perceived possible retaliatory actions by employers against them in their company when they have raised health and safety concerns about COVID-19. Some of you may be asking, What about the government? Aren't they doing anything? What about OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Association, the regulatory agency that is meant to protect workers' rights? Well, since the start of the pandemic, OSHA's been useless. Although receiving more than 10,000 complaints of unsafe conditions, OSHA has issued just 2 citations this year. And even under the upcoming Biden administration, OSHA will have too few inspectors to adequately cover all of Amazon's warehouses, let alone every other workplace in America where workers are endangered. Even when workers' safety violations are found, the penalties are negligible on these companies. All of these precarious conditions that hundreds of thousands of workers in America are facing right now are neither new nor accidental, nor something that should and needs to be happening. They are the direct result of years, decades of having corporations and the super rich calling the shots in this country. People are dying, 307,000 as of yesterday, getting evicted, approximately 14 million people, and or forced to work in unsafe conditions, and yet fast food giants like Taco Bell operator headquartered in Minnesota, a Wendy's franchise in San Antonio, a group of more than 200 Pizza Huts in California, and a McDonald's franchisee in Tampa, among others, gobbled up $1 billion in federal aid that was meant for small businesses. And they're not the only ones getting a big slice of the COVID relief money. Televangelist Joel Osteen's megachurch in Houston received $4.4 million from the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP loan. Tom Brady's Massachusetts-based supplement and merchandise company, TB12 Incorporated, also received a $960,000 PPP loan, which he then used to buy a yacht. Yep, a freaking yacht. And of course, the Trumps wouldn't miss the chance to fill their pockets too. They haven't skipped a beat. Over 25 PPP loans worth more than $3.65 million were given to businesses with addresses at Trump and Kushner real estate properties. And those companies all pay rent to, you know who, Trump and Kushner, the Trump family. 15 of the properties self-reported that they only kept one job, 0 jobs, or did not report a number at all. And loans to Trump and Kushner properties included a more than $2.1 million loan to the Triumph Restaurant Corporation, located at the Trump International Hotel and Tower in New York City. The company reported that the money didn't go to keeping any jobs, and then it later closed. A company called LB City Incorporated, which is located at Kushner's Bungalow Hotel in Long Beach, New Jersey, received a loan for over $500,000. And 2 tenants at 725 Fifth Avenue, Trump Tower, received more than $100,000 and only kept 3 jobs as a result. 4 tenants at the Kushner-owned 666 Fifth Avenue combined received more than $204,000, and for that, they only retained 6 jobs. As you can see, there is some troubling patterns distribution of PPP funds, which we all need to remember were intended to help small businesses keep their lights on while the economy healed during the hard hits of the summer. But they've been grossly misused by opportunistic, greedy billionaires, which is why every single billionaire is rolling in cash right now. And talking about opportunistic, greedy billionaires, let's talk about my favorite billionaire to hate, Elon Musk, who is fleeing California to avoid paying as $18 billion to that state in capital gains taxes. Musk has a net worth of $139 billion. Again, that is like an unfathomable amount of money. Nobody can spend that much money in a lifetime. Nobody could, no matter how many children you have, we could be talking like Abraham and Sarah level number of children and distributing billions of dollars to each of them. And we still wouldn't be able to comprehend how much money that is, and nobody would be able to spend it in their lifetimes. It's absolutely fantastical. So he has $139 billion. He's second globally only to Amazon founder Jeff Bezos. That wealth is largely in Tesla shares, which have climbed over 1,000% since July 2019. And while as Musk begins to tap into that paper wealth, he'll be required to pay California's top capital gains tax rate of 13.3%, in addition to the top federal capital gains rate of 20%. So what does he do? He flees like a criminal and heads to Texas, which is one of 9 states that don't have a capital gains tax. The others, by the way, are Alaska, Florida, Nevada, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Tennessee, Washington, and Wyoming. With this move, Musk follows the steps of Jeff Bezos and Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, who now all reside in states that don't collect income tax. But that's not the only incentive that drove Musk to Texas. Musk will also be getting a boost from the anti-poverty tax break. And I know that it doesn't really make sense, especially after I just said that he is literally rolling in money. But it turns out that ridiculously expensive rocket projects aren't the only thing that Musk and Jeff Bezos have in common. Their facilities are in areas designed as opportunity zones, giving them a path to low tax expansion. These zones or tracts are designated as underdeveloped by the government and come with a big dollar sign bonus if you develop jobs on them. So Musk's SpaceX company has been doing some of that at the Texas-Mexico border. They've created very few jobs in this community, not nearly enough to pay for the environmental destruction that these projects have caused in the area. I mean, they've already they've already blown up at least 3 spaceships down there. But those weren't financed directly with taxpayer money per se, but the opportunity zone benefit is coming from taxpayer money. The program that designates these areas as selected zones or underdeveloped was part of Trump's 2017 plan entitled 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And it was supposed to incentivize development of these zones. But the real issue here is that the zones have been designated after the fact, which allows companies to claim the benefits after they've already established in their location. So they can basically just be there and then say, oh, I'm on one of these zones, and potentially even argue that the place where they're already located should be classified as one of the zones. This sounds a hell of a lot more like a form of political favoritism rather than economic need and gross misuse of scarce resources to be subsidizing billionaires to go out into space when there are people struggling with real problems here on Earth. Lamentably, this toxic culture of giving more to those that clearly don't need it while excluding those that clearly do is not exclusive to the Trump administration. It is enough to just look at the cabinet picks of the incoming Biden-Harris administration and see who they are choosing to know that this kind of corruption ending is probably not in our future, unless we shift the way that we are targeting our government and responding. For example, the Biden White House staff picks so far include venture capitalist executive Ronald Klain, former pharmaceutical insurance lobbyist Steve Ricchetti, top Democratic recipient of big oil money, Cedric Richmond, co-founder of a firm that represents pharma and private equity, Jen O'Malley Dillon. And then his administration picks include co-founder of a firm that represents big defense and tech companies, Anthony Blinken, ex-consultant for data miner Palantir, Palantir Tech, Avril Haines, and senior VP, who's currently on leave, of a firm that represented embattled Swiss-based mining giant Glencore, Linda Thomad Greenfield. And then his economic team picks include managing director for a massive New York financial firm, Brian Deese, the ex-senior advisor for another massive New York financial firm, Wally Adameo, and the CEO of DC think tank that raised millions of dollars from Wall Street, big banks, and big techs, and defense contractors. And a favorite of those who have pointed out that the DNC has helped rig primaries for the last 2 in a row, Neera Tanden, getting what she invested over these last 8 years. So also worth noting that Biden has also just picked Raytheon board member to lead the Pentagon. And sure, Lloyd J. Austin III will be the first African-American chief of the U.S. war machine. But in case you didn't know, while as head of Central Command, Austin actively campaigned to resurrect the Pentagon's spectacularly failed program of trying to arm rebels in Syria to fight ISIS. And then in 2014, he backed immunity for U.S. troops for war crimes prosecutions by the government of Afghanistan. He helped spearhead the Iraq invasion, which Biden admitted was a mistake, but he was the main proponent of in the Senate for the Democrats. And he is a member of the same private equity fund which invests in defense contractors as Flerney and Biden's warmongering pick for Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. So we've all, been lamenting the extreme corruption and clear kind of kickbacks that corporations have been receiving under the Trump administration. But Biden is continuing on with business as normal for corporate America and Wall Street. As you can see, I'm not going to be holding my breath thinking about all of our woes are going to be resolved under a Biden-Harris administration. Far from it. The way I see it, there's only two ways. Either one, everyone in America incorporates as an LLC ourselves so that our elected officials actually start caring about us, or we come to realize that help won't miraculously trickle down or come from the federal/state governments, but rather we should follow Chile's and most recently India's example of rising up to the moment and demanding systemic change, both of which those efforts are still underway, including reimagining our laws and the legal and political institutions such as the Constitution itself. Isn't that far-fetched? People in almost every single state here in the United States periodically examine our own constitutions at the state level, proposing, debating, and voting on changes. Several states have had constitutional conventions to replace or seriously amend their original states' versions. And internationally, constitutional conventions and constitution rewriting processes happen all the time in other countries. In fact, on average, every 19 years in most countries. So maybe it is time for us to take our Constitution into our own hands and make sure that the human rights of everyone left out by the original founders are explicitly acknowledged, as well as envision what a foundational document that is relevant to the realities of humanity right now would say. And obviously, front and center would be that corporations don't have constitutional rights. Government is not here to protect corporate interests. It is here to protect human rights, and that human rights should trump corporate rights every single time. And to this end, I'm happy to announce that we have launched a new project called Toward a People's Constitution, and I'm going to go into detail a little bit more on that later. But let me take a moment to make sure that he knows that you're listening to Move to Amend's monthly live report, and I'm Caitlin Saposi Belknap, Move to Amend's National Director. Move to Amend, in case you're new around here, is the campaign to pass the We the People Amendment to the U.S. Constitution to make clear that corporations don't have constitutional rights and to get big money out of politics. You can ask me your questions at any point. Remember that if you help us share this broadcast, we will be giving two people who do that a t-shirt from Move to Amend. So if you're tuning in on Twitter, please retweet this link right now and use the hashtag Move to Amend. And if you're tuning in via Facebook, then please go ahead and share it and use the hashtag Move to Amend Live Report. And you could be a winner of a t-shirt at the end of the show. Next up, we're going to turn over to Move to Amend updates from our campaign. Okay, so first up, Toward a People's Constitution has launched, and we did that on December 10th last week, which is International Human Rights Day. It was the anniversary of the United Nations passing the International Declaration on Human Rights, and we felt as though that was an appropriate date to launch our campaign, which is all about exploring what it would look like to have a constitution in this country that prioritized and centralized human rights and the rights of nature over the rights of corporations and property. Obviously, we are not in a climate right now that is ready to change the US Constitution in that fundamental of a way. So this is an education and a consciousness raising project. This is an opportunity for us to help our fellow Americans understand that the fact that we hold our current Constitution up as if it is the words of God and therefore not something that we should, critically examine, not something that we should think about changing. Meanwhile, countries all over the rest of the world have updated their constitutions many times over since we've even really looked at ours. And so that's what we want to embark on in this project. And as a result of that, or because of that, what it really is right now is a website with a forum where you can put your ideas out, you can respond to others and kind of weigh in, and it's a participatory campaign to elevate this conversation and see where it takes us. It was a big success. Dozens of people joined us to learn more about this project. It kind of came out of a series of people's movement assemblies that Move to Amend has been doing for the last many years, the latest one being in October, where we explored this conversation and we looked at envisioning, what might be included in a constitution that centralized human rights over property rights, and where we could codify the demands of so many social justice movements that we're working on. We also wrote a piece that was published in Salon. So props to my colleagues, Greg and Jessica and Shelley, who, and that piece was quickly picked up by a number of international press sources. So we found that really interesting and not necessarily something that we expected. So it's gone around the world. In fact, we even saw a fan-made video of the Salon article that was put to music that just happened spontaneously from somebody who was inspired as a result of reading it. You can go to our new website, peoplesconstitution.us, and you can read that Salon article and also see the forum and begin to participate in all the ways that are put up there. And there'll be more to come as well, future people's movement assemblies and other actions coming soon. So go to the peoplesconstitution.us/join, sign up, start an account so that you can participate in the forum and share your ideas. We have just launched our end of the year fundraising campaign this week, and we need to raise $100,000 by the end of the year to be well positioned to meet our goals in 2021, and most importantly, to end this year in the black. As many nonprofits do, we typically raise about a third of our annual budget during the year-end fundraising. I saw somebody asked, how we are funded. We are funded by grassroots donations. The average donation to Move to Amend is $40. We have thousands of donors, and it's been a really tough year for everyone, and that includes many of our supporters who have had to either stop their monthly contributions or reduce them. But so many of you hung with us and made sure that you still allocated money every month to support this campaign for systemic change, and we really thank you for that. We have an additional goal of trying to recruit 28 people for the 28th Amendment to become monthly donors this month, and our monthly supporters are so important for making sure that we have sustainable, dependable funds, and it also makes it possible for all of us who are, not wealthy to pitch in every month at a rate that we can afford, but then cumulatively contribute more than just one time. So if you're not yet a monthly donor, I am a Move to Amend supporter. I donate $28 for the 28th Amendment. And I'd ask you to join me in doing that as well. But if you're not in a position to do monthly, then please consider just making a one-time donation to help us meet our end of the year goals. It has been rough for campaigns like Move to Amend that are working for, longer term systemic change to keep our heads above water during the years of the Trump presidency, and frankly, even kind of going into that, competing with political campaigns, which, I would say, yes, of course, we need to change who is in our government, but at the same time, what we get from those folks when we contribute, literally millions of our collective dollars into congressional races, I would urge us to really think about, what kind of lasting impact that makes compared to folks who are doing the organizing work year in and year out. and really growing the base of power to demand change of those lawmakers. And so please help us meet our goals at the end of the year so that we can go into 2021 strong. And we'd also like to invite you to join us on New Year's Eve on December 30th. We'll be doing a live cast, kind of telethon style, right here on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. We'll have members from our national team, so that's some of our staff and board members, and also our grassroots volunteers coming on live and sharing why they amend and what we've got planned for the year ahead. And just extending our gratitude and thanks for all the work and support that you have put in this year and the past 10 years, and what's ahead in this next year, but also decade. And then tomorrow, I want to invite you all to our last movie night of the year. We've been trying something a little bit more social. So we'll be watching Trading Places and having a discussion about it as well. So that's tomorrow night, Friday, December 18th, one of the best comedies of the 80s that makes us laugh while highlighting income inequality, insider trading, systemic racism and classism, and other social justice issues in the United States. I haven't seen this movie in forever, so I'm looking forward to seeing it again. Afterwards, we'll have a lively discussion led by one of our national board members and film aficionado, Daniel Lee. And stay tuned for another movie night coming up in January. I think we're going to be showing the film 9 to 5 on January 22nd. That's still tentative, but that's tentatively what the plan is. Also, a couple things coming up in January. We will be holding our Get Involved in 2021 kickoff webinar probably on January 4th, just right away as the new year starts. And then our Labor Caucus is going to be hosting and putting on a webinar on the 12th of January called Building People Power, Lessons from Organized Labor to Pass the We the People Amendment. That'll be 4 o'clock Pacific, 8 Eastern, and Alfonso will share the link so that you can RSVP to that if you would like to join us for that training. And let's see what else we got for campaign updates. Okay, so in 2020, we had a pretty rough year. It was not really the best opportunity and landscape and climate to be pressuring Congress in general, right? Because we couldn't do that in person. So normally we have a national leadership summit in Washington, D.C., which is a 3-day conference. And then we end it with, a People's Lobby Day. And obviously we weren't able to do that this year. And then even though, as Congress members did transition to doing constituent meetings online, the reality is that they used the excuse of being focused on whether it was COVID or police brutality, 2 issues that they did nothing about all year long, and yet pretended as though that was their top priority anytime you tried to talk to them about anything else. So it was a bit rough, but I'm really happy and proud to say that nonetheless, we still met our goal for 2020, which was to get 75 co-sponsors on the We the People Amendment. If your rep is a co-sponsor, there is still a few more days before Congress goes on recess and staff take a vacation of a week or so, where you can call your rep and thank them for co-sponsoring in the 116th Congress and ask that they commit to co-sponsoring in the 117th. So that's a really important thing to do right now. You can go to movetoamend.org/amendment. And follow the link at the top to the congress.gov most current list of who is a co-sponsor. So we will be talking to you in January about if your rep is not a co-sponsor or if you have a new rep next Congress, how to target them. But for now, it's really important that as many people as possible give them a call if they already are and thank them for their support so that they know, and you can help bolster and support the work that we're already doing to reach out to those folks and make sure they're lined up. Because for those of you who don't know, the way that it works is every single bill expires and ends at the end of Congress, including amendment joint resolutions, and they need to be reintroduced and then all the co-sponsors need to be recruited again. So that's always a bit of a chore on our part, and you can help us do that work and also help solidify that support from your representatives by letting them know that you appreciate, you saw their support, you saw that they stood up. They were one of only 75 in Congress that was willing to show leadership in this area, and so commend them. Whether you are happy with what they're doing on other issues or not, commend them for this, and ask that they re-up their support next year, and do it right away as soon as the bill is reintroduced. We're shooting for HJR 48 again, so the timing of when the bill will be introduced is going to depend on that. But we expect that it will certainly be in the first quarter. It may well be last time it was in February. In the past, sometimes it's been as late as April. But with a Democratic majority, and we'll see what happens with the Senate and a new administration, I wouldn't be surprised if there are a good number of bills that are introduced right away, including joint resolutions, and that it's earlier rather than later in the year that our amendment is introduced. Speaking of next year, just want to be clear that our goal is to have the amendment reintroduced, and then 100 co-sponsors in the House, and then finally get a companion bill introduced in the Senate with 5 initial co-sponsors at least. And then we're going to continue to grow and develop the platform that is the Towards a People's Constitution website and participatory processes that we have already started to do with that new project. Couple other reminders before we close out in terms of campaign updates. Every Friday is Making Sense with Move to Amend. So tomorrow we'll be going live at noon Pacific, and we use that time to interact with you all, answer questions, and then we trade off who the hosts are, and whoever it is kind of gives you their take on the current events and news of the week. And it's an opportunity for you to share your take and any news that you think should be elevated. And you can make suggestions at any time. Tomorrow, we will be going live, again, noon Pacific, with Daniel Lee from our board and some mystery guest that he has not told us yet. And also our office will be closed starting Monday and through January 3rd to give our staff team an opportunity to rest a little bit during the holidays so that we can hit the ground running in 2021. You're listening to the Move to Amend Monthly Live Report. I'm Caitlin Saposi-Belknap, Move to Amend's National Director. Move to Amend is the campaign to pass the We the People Amendment to the U.S. Constitution to make clear that corporations don't have constitutional rights and to get big money out of politics. And you can ask me your questions at any time during this broadcast, including if you're listening to it not live. We will respond in chat as soon as we can if you're not tuning in live, but if you are live, I will answer your questions at the end of the show. Make sure that you share this broadcast, and 2 of you who do will get an opportunity, will win a t-shirt from Move to Amend. So retweet and share right now using the hashtag Move to Amend, and we will reward 2 of you for your efforts. Next up will be our dispatch from the grassroots. So my first shout out goes to the Move to Amend chapter in Los Angeles, California. After months of calls and emails, they finally got an appointment with their representative, Karen Bass's office. And we're hoping that there's still a chance that she might become the 76th co-sponsor in this Congress, but we're running out of days for that. So if not that, then her office has committed that she will definitely be a co-sponsor in the 117th Congress. Again, she was a co-sponsor in the past and just didn't come on this time. And that's why it's so important, if your rep is a co-sponsor now, that you make sure that they have it on their priority, on their radar as we're closing out the year. And we'll be asking you to do that again in January as well to thank them. So thank you to Karen Bass, and a gigantic thank you to Jeffrey and Lauren White for your undeterred commitment to getting Representative Bass and also Harley Rauda on board. Another example that persistence in people's lobbying does pay off. We said this during our last live report, but I just want to also elevate our Santa Clara County, California Move to Amend affiliate for securing Jackie Spears' co-sponsorship that made her our 75th co-sponsor, which is what got us to our goal, and it was during election week, no less, as well. So thank you, Delaney and John and Ann and Rob and Georgia and everyone who was part of that work. We want to give a shout out again to our Minnesota Move to Amend, all of the affiliates in Minnesota for a really successful Pledge to Amend campaign this year. Pledge to Amend is our campaign that we do in election years, targeting people running for office at all levels, asking them if they will use their office to support the work of the We the People Amendment. If they're in Congress, obviously, if they will become a co-sponsor, if they're in state government, asking if they will, commit to ratifying the amendment and supporting the amendment when it comes to the state level. But we also target local elected officials down on a school board, because anyone seeking to hold leadership and representation in this country needs to be clear and transparent what their position is on corporate constitutional rights and money in politics. And so that's what Pledge to Amend does. And our folks in Minnesota got 61 Pledge to Amend candidates, and they continue to hold their elected officials accountable to the pledges they took through education about our strategic plan. And so I know that they're already ready to go in 2021 to make sure that all of those successful candidates who actually won their office take it to the next level in whatever way that makes sense for whatever office they hold. A big thank you to our Minnesota folks in St. Paul, Minneapolis, and Brainerd for running such a successful Pledge to Amend campaign and being so well organized and setting a model for everyone in the rest of the country for how to do Pledge to Amend right. Inspired by other state networks, Move to Amend advocates and affiliates in Florida are beginning to lay the foundations for a statewide campaign for a ballot initiative statewide that they'd like to do in Florida to get the We the People Amendment on the Florida as part of the Florida Constitution. So that's in the early stages. We will definitely keep you posted. And if you are in Florida and would like to plug in with that effort, let us know. Alaska passed a ballot measure that requires open primaries and ranked choice voting in their state level elections and calls for an amendment to the Constitution to clarify that money in campaigns may be regulated, which is explicitly what Citizens United says is not currently the case. Alaska Move to Amend plans to use the momentum from this statewide win that Citizens Alaska achieved and push for more substantive language around abolishing all corporate constitutional rights in a future resolution that will be passed by their legislature. So keep up the good fight, Alaska Move to Amend. And we also want to lift up so many of our affiliates who have adapted to the challenges of this pandemic and launched virtual educational studying speaking series so that they can continue to further the movement in their community, even when they can't do outreach in their communities in person. So Central Ohio created Talking About Democracy, which is an ongoing two-topic education series connecting with local groups. In St. Paul, Minnesota, they created Imagining Real Democracy discussion series, an ongoing event with readings, videos, and rotating topics related to realizing real democracy in Minnesota. In Minneapolis, they also created the Growing Democracy discussion series, which is an ongoing opportunity to explore solutions and obstacles to growing democracy and building solidarity. And in Anchorage, Alaska, they've been co-hosting a program of virtual civic education and engagement, which is a 3-part fall education series that they've been doing. Also, to add that there are a number of affiliates and individuals that have participated and gone through the latest iteration of our movement education program, and they have wonderful reviews about it. So, and that's something that's open and available to everyone. So it's something that we require our local groups to do to help develop a shared analysis and understanding of how we came to be in this moment, a shared culture around language, also how privilege and oppression affects our ability to work effectively across differences. So all of that is put together in a series called the Movement Education Program, and we have made that available to anybody and everyone as well. And we have also heard that other groups that are not Move to Amend have been using it. Individuals have gone through it. People have set up discussion groups with just their friends. hold on one second. I'm going to shut the door. Excuse me. Okay. And we'd love you to take a look at it and see how you can use it to help enhance your organizing that you're doing, and get your feedback as well. And if you have anything additional to suggest. Shout out to my parents' dogs, who Roko and Mita, who obviously wanted a cameo on this program tonight. So that's it on campaign updates for Move to Amend. I'm here to answer there's two of them, and they're not that poor. I think another dog walked by outside, and that's what happened. So I'm here to answer any questions you might have that we haven't already gotten to. Don't forget to stay tuned to the end to see if you're one of our t-shirt winners. Looks like Kathleen Allen is asking if Ann Custer from New Hampshire is a sponsor. No, I don't think so. But again, the best thing to do for everybody who's wondering whether your rep is a sponsor or not is to go to movetoamend.org/amendment. And then we have a link there to the congress.gov site for HJR 48. And that's where you can see the most current list of co-sponsors and what state they're in, and also you could click on there and get their contact information direct and give them, drop them a line and tell them thanks. And if your rep is missing, then do go ahead and you can tell them right now that they should sign on next year. It'll be even more important that you go ahead and do that in January as well, but we'll be here to let you know and remind you about that. Anybody else have any questions for me? While I'm waiting to see if they do, I do want to take a second and just extend, on behalf of the organization, well wishes to anyone out there who has family members who have COVID right now. We just found out in the last 24 hours that 2 of our staff have family members who have tested positive for COVID, and our thoughts are with those folks. I'm not going to, disclose because of privacy and everything who that is, but we wish them the best. We wish them that they get through it and don't have lasting long COVID symptoms and are able to just get through it. One of our former board members, her husband has it too, and so it's really, really dangerous right now. So stay in as much as you can, wear your masks, support and give big tips to the folks who deliver your groceries if you're doing that, because they're out there, literally risking their lives to be able to bring you groceries. If you're going to the grocery store, give a little bit of extra love to those essential workers. And again, I really hope that all of your loved ones are safe and that we can take care of each other so that we don't have to go out as much as possible. It is a crime against humanity that our government right now is pretty much the only government in the world, certainly with the kind of resources that ours has, is not supporting the people of this country to make sure that we can afford to stay home, that we don't have to go to work, that we're not put in a position of having to put our kids in childcare so that we can go to work. I mean, all of these things is what is exacerbating this problem. And I'm sure you all have seen that in other countries, like Australia and New Zealand have all but eliminated COVID at the moment, and meanwhile it is raging here in the United States because our government does not care about us. And that is nor illustrated, and there with the situation where they can't even get it together to pass relief, and what they're even considering is paltry and, not enough in any way, shape, or form to protect people. So it'll be up to us to help take care of each other. And unfortunately, in 2021, just because the calendar ticks over to a new year, the pandemic doesn't care about that. Our government isn't going to change because of that, whether we're, with a new Congress, with a new president. And so, we have a long road ahead. And at the same time, some of what we've seen this year has been, more people than ever in my lifetime out in the streets demanding justice. And I think we're only at the beginning of that. So let's figure out how to be strategic, how to be strong, and how to be as powerful as we can going into 2021, because really it's all on the line. It looks like we don't really have any more questions, so I guess I'm going to wrap it up. There was a question about a list of companies who received COVID relief funds, so we can provide that. If Alfonso doesn't have a quick and easy link, we can comment on your comment a little bit later and put that all together. I think it was compiled from a couple different places, so he'll figure out kind of the best resource to show you that so that you can use it as well. Let's see, what can we do to stop big corporate, oh, here now all the questions come in. What can we do to stop big corporations spending over $100 million on ballot measures and lying to the public? Well, the most systemic way to solve that problem would be to pass the We the People Amendment and then outlaw companies from contributing any money to ballot initiatives. And unfortunately, with the Supreme Court interpreting money as speech and corporations as people at this time, I would say there's not much we can do except pass our amendment. And that's one of the very many reasons, literally hundreds of reasons, of why this amendment is so critical and so important. And it is vital that we grow this movement and force our government to make clear that corporations don't deserve constitutional protections, because if they have them, then they can manipulate both the legal and the political system and trump our ability to hold them accountable. So, as a Californian, I'm here in Arizona right now because I'm here to help take care of my mom through a major operation, but I hear you on how dangerous it is to allow corporations to buy ballot initiatives, which is what we saw in California. And workers will be feeling the impacts of the results of this election, not just in California, but all over, because they're going to take that model that they won and test it out in California. And I'm talking about, Uber and Lyft and DoorDash and all those companies that pooled together to spend millions of dollars to basically buy a carve out in labor law for themselves so that they wouldn't have to pay their workers minimum wages or any benefits. Let's see. Joel Olstein, acceptance of a PPP loan, if he's obligated to pay back. Off the top of my head, I don't. Alfonso, do you know? We can also follow up with you and answer that question. Yes. I'm not quite sure from his face what he's saying. So we will follow up and answer that question. Then it looks like Alfonso had put it up there while talking, but there is a link. If you go on YouTube, Anthony provided a link to bailouts and seeing, what PP are at, who's gotten them. So thanks for that resource, Anthony. Any other questions that I missed? Last call, if anyone has it that you want to throw out there. We'll be back here on January 27th. And again, remember, we'll also be doing the live broadcast on the 30th to kind of close out. Hopefully we'll be closing out our end of the year fundraising campaign. We'll have any updates then about anything related to anything I said here. But the next live report will be back time, which is Wednesday of the month, 8 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. So that'll be January 27th. And we're going to leave you with our hell yeah moment. Protests in India, and nobody is talking. Heads of protesting Indian farmers are a national farmer strike on this Monday, the second in a week, to press for the quashing of 3 new laws on agricultural reform that they say will drive down crop prices and devastate their earnings. This week's protests are the continuation of what may have been the largest single protest in the history of humanity, which was last month, as tens of thousands of farmers marched to the country's capital in India the proposed new agricultural reform legislation, and upwards of 250 million people around the subcontinent participated in a 24-hour general strike in solidarity. Modi's government insists that the reforms will benefit farmers, and it says that they will allow farmers to market their produce and boost production through private investment. But farmers understand that the neoliberal policies are more than likely to benefit multinational corporations over family farmers. And ongoing enormous protest has been largely ignored by the US corporate media. And so this month, we want to lift it up in our Hell Yeah moment. And so we'll be sharing with you at the end and closing out with a clip from Democracy Now! Let's take inspiration from them and what it looks like when a country is in uprising. And I want to wish you all a happy and safe holidays and end of the year. Also want to let Anthony Studman and Mike, on Twitter, Anthony Studman, Studman_A, and on Facebook, Michael O. Dumas III, you win our t-shirts. So give us a direct message and let us know what your address is and what size shirt you would like, and we'll get that sent out to you as soon as possible. So again, I want to wish everyone happy and safe holidays and end of the year to nonviolent uprisings against corporate rule in the new year. And thanks as always to Alfonso Saldana for producing this show. Stay safe, y'all. And here's our Hell Yeah moment to close us out. See you next year.
This is Democracy Now! I'm Amy Goodman with Nermeen Sheikh. As we turn to India, where tens of thousands of farmers are converging on the capital city of New Delhi by tractor and on foot to demand the repeal of new laws that deregulate agricultural markets. The Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, says the measures give farmers more freedom to set their own prices and sell directly to corporate buyers. But opponents say the neoliberal policies are a boon to corporations and roll back key labor and crop price protections that could have a devastating impact on the livelihood of farmers. Agriculture is the leading source of income for more than half of India's 1.3 billion population. The ongoing protests come after a nationwide demonstration Thursday when an estimated 250 million workers, farmers, and their allies joined in what's believed to be the largest organized strike in history anywhere in the world. Organizers say tens of thousands of demonstrators have now gathered at each of New Delhi's 3 borders in cold winter conditions, and more farmers are on their way. Police have put up barriers to block them from coming into the center of the city. This is one of the farmers protesting.
India is my country, and Delhi is the capital of my country. I am not even allowed to enter my capital city. This is in spite of farmers never doing any hooliganism. Our whole movement has been peaceful. They also showered us with water cannons. We were also beaten, but no farmers retaliated violently.
Unstoppable Sound Agency.
Are not people too. Money is not speech. Man, in fact, it's the root of all right now. We have the right to be free. Corporations are not people too. Money is not speech. Man, in fact, it's the root of all right now. Up and defend your democracy.
Have you recently read the Constitution? There seems to be some type of confusion. I thought it said the people were the institution and not the corporations that simply want to use them. The truth is currently a fusion of corporate loot and our government that is outright abusive. People need change. The state, it refuses. They're saying we're mistaken. Well, show us where the proof is. They control the media, movies, and the music, and determine where supplies of the water and food live. We need a strategy. Here is a solution. Build a movement to give our rulers improvements. An infusion of human to counteract the hubris that has our ecosystem near useless and our youth pissed. The founding fathers were flawed, but they knew this. They gave us the tools to move with. Let's use them.
Move. Corporations are not people too. Money is not speech. Man, in fact, it's the root of all right now. And it's time to take to these streets. Move.
Corporations are not people. 2. Money is not speech.
Man,
In fact, it's the root of all
right
evil.
now.
So get on out of your seats. Citizens United is the lie. Corporation doesn't know life, nor does it die. Profits from the 100 richest fictions alone in 1 year could make all of poverty gone. The Republicans are lost. Democrats bought. Most American people have forgotten that we fought for healthcare, education, services, and safety. It wasn't kindness, it was war that ended slavery. Not advocating violence, I am saying that lately a lot of folks is dying in ways that seem shady. A lot of students is hiding from debt that they can't beat and asked to be excited about a future they can't see. It's not a climate crisis, it's a corporate crisis, because a corporation can never know what life is. Only a human can. What's the solution then? Amend the Constitution or it's revolution, man? Corporations are not people. 2. Money is not speech.
Men,
In fact, it's the root of all
right
evil.
now.
To us to educate and to reach. Corporations are not people. 2. Money is not speech.
men,
In fact, it's the root of all evil.
right
Which
now.
side of the fence you find your feet? Hip-hop never died. The corporation stole it and told us with boldness that we never owned it. They just loaned it out for the moment. It's a policy and culture matrix. When corporations shape it, only the profits hold it sacred. Though they stole to make them, we don't have the convenience of giving up. Gotta swallow all of the real, even if it comes from sippy cups. It's not a matter of political correctness. It's a matter of having the knowledge of what respect is. You can't defend humanity without joining it. This is our responsibility. Let's stop avoiding it. Instituting love as a practice and overcoming the fascists to achieve the democratic, economic, and ecological collapse. I am not being neurotic. I simply offer the fact. We the people are under a monster's attack. It's time to rise, open the eyes, and take our democracy back. Corporations are not people. Money is not speech.
men,
In fact, it's the root of all right now. We will not admit defeat.